Sometimes in racing the stars just align, you feel like it's the easiest job in the world and you wonder why everyone else is going so slow. I didn't really feel like I could talk to anyone. You kind of get trapped inside your own head. You don't want to admit that you're feeling like that. So this year nearly didn't even start for me. 12 months ago, I was sat in my bedroom recording YouTube videos, basically just trying to find a way to fund my racing for this season. Through this amazing community on YouTube that I found over the last 12 months, we did it. I really didn't expect to get on the grid when I first set out on my journey with U-Race, but it worked. So I've just got you guys that watch these videos week in, week out to thank for that. Because without you, I really wouldn't have been able to race this season. That was the first major obstacle I managed to overcome this year, and really I thought it was going to be plain sailing from that point onwards. I was racing for the Bathams racing team, which I've a lot of experience with that team. We had a great bike in the BMW M1000, and I was pretty convinced no matter what I was going to win the championship this season. I knew if I put the effort in, I had the bike and everything around me to do a good job. So the winter I just carried on training like I normally would, and that was where the first major obstacle appeared for me. We did lots of testing on the bike and I was really getting to grips with it. I felt really comfortable on it. I felt like it was an improvement on the old bike, and that was when we went to Knockhill for a pre-season test. And at the time this was a bit of a secret. I didn't tell anyone what was happening, but basically I couldn't really do more than 4 or 5 laps on the circuit without getting really bad arm pump in my arm. And to the point where I couldn't open the throttle properly, I couldn't close the throttle if the bike wheelied, I couldn't really grab the front brake. Not only is it quite dangerous, it's obviously a serious problem when you're trying to win races, because if you can't use your right arm properly, you don't really stand a chance. So secretly, I went off to get an operation at the time. I didn't tell anyone. Today is the 14th of May. Yeah, it's a little bit nerve-wracking. I don't think anyone likes having an operation done. You can kind of see where it's bulging out a little bit now, and all the sort of little, there's a hernia there on my arm, and same in the top, there's a hernia there that wasn't there a year ago. So they're just gonna basically slit that there, and then you can see there where that's coming out, where I'll have a little bit more room on my arm, hopefully. All fun and games, motorbike racing. So that was how I ended up with this scar on my arm here. I was able to come back within about 10 days to ride again at the next test. So I missed one test at Alton Park, but I wasn't bothered because I knew now that my arm was in the best shape it could be. So this was the first major highlight for me. We got to Alton Park. I qualified second, I think. Even though I qualified second, in my head there was no way on earth anyone was beating me. I would have done anything to win that race. I'd had such a tough off-season and I was full of so much motivation that I was just determined to win that race. So I took off and managed to get the whole shot, and yeah, went on to win that race. It was a huge outpouring of emotion, and it really got our season kick-started the way I wanted it to. And from that point onwards I thought, that's it, we've got this nailed. The bike's good, I feel good, and it's just going to be an easy year. So we went on to the second race at Knockhill, and Knockhill is another one of my favourite tracks, and I managed to win the second race there. So we had 2 from 2. I managed to beat myself in the third race because I crashed, and that was sort of the beginning of a downward spiral during the middle of the year. I finished the first session, and the one thing with motorbike racing that you should never forget is it's never as easy as it seems. Well, this is not turning out to be an easy weekend so far. It was kind of different there because I was confident in the bike, whereas this weekend just didn't have that much confidence. So Sunday was pretty disastrous for the Mackenzie clan. I think that's the first time we've ever had a quadruple DNF between the two of us. So that sent me into this downward spiral, and it wasn't so much a downward spiral in terms of results. We still had a couple of podiums after that, and we were still in the hunt. What really was the downward spiral was my mental health, and it's sort of something I talked about in my retirement video. But having talked about it now, and I've reflected on it for a few months, I kind of can understand a little bit more about it. And it's something I want to talk about more on this channel in the future. It's something I want to try and help other people with, because I feel like I'm in a unique position now where I can talk about it. And the reason I think I'm in a unique position, and something that I've realised, is when you're racing, it's pretty much impossible to talk about it, because as a racer, you cannot admit to having any form of weaknesses. If you look like you've got a weakness, not only do your competition think they've got an upper hand on you, you're all fighting for the same job and the same ride the next season. And if a team thinks that a rider has got any form of weakness, they're not going to choose that rider over the next one. And that was sort of the position I found myself in, where I didn't really feel like I could talk to anyone. You kind of get trapped inside your own head. You don't want to admit that you're feeling like that. But now I've stopped racing, it doesn't matter to me whether I talk about it or not. I just want to try and help people with it. So that's something I'm going to try and do in the future. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but it's something I'm thinking about and look forward to helping other people with. The more I thought about it, it's not just mental health issues, things like my arm pump. I didn't admit that I had any sort of arm pump problem because you don't want your competition to know, you don't want other teams to know, because riders miss out on rides sometimes. If they've got arm pump, the team won't employ them the next year. I know lots of racers that have a lot of injuries that teams don't know about because, yeah, you won't want to admit it to anyone because that team's not going to employ you if they think you're damaged goods effectively. So that's the harsh reality of it. It's a really macho sport. That's just part of it. But I'd like to think there's something I can try and do to help people. I started off by just donating 50% of the profits from the Mad Mark merchandise to the Mine charity. And yeah, it's something I'm excited about doing more with in the future. And that is when my year got turned upside down completely. So on the Thursday of Donington Park, after I'd sort of been through this bad patch, I decided I was going to retire. I didn't really feel like any weight had been lifted off my shoulders at the time because I still had 3 races to go and do, and I didn't really feel like I was in a position to do them, to be honest, but I didn't want to let anyone down, and I was just going to carry on racing till the end of the season. So Donington Park came. On the Saturday, I had a terrible day. The bike felt horrendous in the wet. I couldn't ride it. I was nearly crashing at every single corner, so I pulled in because there was 2 races to go. I didn't want to crash the bike for the team, and there was no point in me riding around. I wasn't going to score any points, and a lot of people did fall off that day anyway. So that meant for the next day, I had to start from the back of the grid in 31st position. Now, when I started in 31st position, the last thing on planet Earth I was thinking about was getting a podium. At that point, I thought if I could get inside the top 10, I'd have been having a good day. And that still meant passing 21 people to get to that point. And leading up to that, I hadn't felt that confident with the bike, I hadn't felt that good in myself, so I wasn't that confident going into the race. However, when I set off on the warm-up lap, we'd somehow managed to get the bike back to how it was at the start of the season, and it just filled me with so much confidence on the warm-up lap. I got this feeling deep down inside me that I could do a pretty good job if I could get past a few people. So on the first lap, I just completely went for it. Sometimes in racing, the stars just align, you feel like it's the easiest job in the world and you wonder why everyone else is going so slow. And that was one of those days for me. I set off on the first lap, I think I passed about 15 people on the first lap, came round in 16th or 15th position and just went from there. I carried on passing people. I think I was leading the race after 5 or 6 laps and then battled out with Billy McConnell to the end. And it was just unbelievable. I never in a million years thought I was going to win the race from there, but yeah, it was just amazing for me for one last time in my racing career to just have an amazing day. At that point, I wasn't planning on admitting that I was going to retire until the end of the season. I wanted to finish the year, tell all my sponsors, and then let everyone know that's what I was planning on doing. But I also wasn't planning on starting 31st and finishing first, so I didn't think there was a better time to announce my retirement than then. So that was where I had my emotional Eurosport interview and announced my retirement, which was a really emotional day for me. I'd had the best race of my career, really. I don't think if I raced for another 15 years I'd managed to replicate that, so it was amazing to do that. Went out and celebrated with my friends that night, and it was really the beginning of the weight feeling like it was lifting off my shoulders a little bit. I had one more race at Brands Hatch, managed to qualify on pole again, and suddenly racing just really felt like it was coming quite easy. And then it was all eyes on Taz. It's Monday.
Yeah.
Day after Cadwell.
Yeah.
Fantastic weekend out for the Mackenzies. I don't think we've ever had a quadruple DNF.
DNF.
So the BSB Showdown basically puts you into this huge pressure cooker of emotion, and for all the racers and teams it gradually just builds up in intensity during the year. So at the start of the year everyone feels a little bit of pressure to get in the showdown. It kind of builds up into these 8 riders now that are then left to try and fight it out for the showdown. So Taz has done a great job at the beginning of the showdown and put himself in the best position possible to try and win the championship. So although I was thinking about my last race of the year, Taz is my best mate, my brother, and everything in between, and I was that focused on what he was doing and nervous for him that it was hard to concentrate on my own racing, to be honest. It came down to the second to last race of the year. Taz did an amazing job and managed to win the British Superbike Championship. That is honestly one of the most special days of my life. That was Taz winning the British Superbike Championship, me doing my last ever race, and yeah, just a massively emotional day. It was hard to imagine that that day would ever come for us. We've been racing for 15 years. When we set out racing, we never had the intention of winning the British Superbike Championship. We just went racing as two young kids that liked riding our bike. So it was amazing for him to do that, and I'm an extremely proud brother sat here right now. So that was the season finished. Taz was British Superbike champion, I was retired, and in all honesty, all we did for the next few weeks was party non-stop. It was just an amazing time. We had so much to celebrate, and yeah, it was really good fun. So after a couple of weeks, I was obviously retired now. I was sort of in this weird place where I didn't really know what I should be doing. I didn't have a proper job. I didn't know whether I should train, should I go to the gym, should I cycle, what do I do? For the last 15 years, I've just been a motorbike racer. So I wake up, I know what I'm gonna do with my day. I go to the gym, I cycle, I do everything that's involved with being a motorcycle racer. And when I woke up a couple of days later, I sort of sat in my bedroom and I thought, what do I do today? Because there's no rule book or guideline as to what you're meant to do when you stop racing. So I found it a bit weird, to be honest, for a few weeks. And I carried on going to the gym. I did a little bit of cycling because I just wanted to sort of keep some kind of routine and structure in my life. And that was when the phone rang from Michael Laverty, who offered me an amazing opportunity to be the manager of the Vision Track Racing Moto3 team, which I'm still blown away with. It's just the most amazing opportunity for me. It's amazing not only for myself, but for this YouTube channel, because I can document my journey around the world next year, going in and out of the MotoGP paddocks and meeting some amazing people. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. It means I can pass on my knowledge and experience I've gained over the last 15 years to Scott and Josh, who are racing in the team. They're two really fast, talented young kids, and I really like them, they're nice lads, so I'm looking forward to that element of it too. This was when my life sort of all started changing for the better, and this was what I really didn't think would happen at the start of the year. I mentioned in my retirement video that I had quite a lot of stomach problems associated with my racing, which meant there's a lot of foods that I can't or couldn't actually eat. After about a month of not racing and not thinking about racing and not thinking about getting money together and have I got a ride and what my competition's doing and all these other emotions that go along with racing, my stomach just completely went back to normal. I've not had a single bit of stomach pain, and I just feel honestly like a completely different person. I didn't realise what a strain it had on my life, and I didn't really say that in any video since, but yeah, I just feel like a much better person right now. I keep getting lots of people asking if I'm ever going to race again. Right now, the answer is no. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying this new chapter in my life, and I'm really excited about what the future holds. So I'm just concentrating on everything that I'm doing now. I'm really enjoying the fact that when I was racing, I was so concentrated and dedicated to what I did that now I'm sort of putting that into new areas of my life. You see results quite fast. Sometimes it felt like in racing, when I put lots of effort in, I wasn't always rewarded for what I was putting in, whereas so far I feel like I have been. So that's exciting for me, and I'm really enjoying all of these new experiences and things that come with it. 2021 has been an absolute roller coaster for me. It was honestly the hardest year of my life at points, but it turned out to be the best year of my life yet. And I'm just really excited for what 2022 is going to bring. I hope everyone else has enjoyed following me on this journey, and I hope you're going to enjoy following me on the journey next year. I just want to thank everyone that's been a part of this and a part of helping me this year, because I couldn't have done any of this without you guys. If you could like the video, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.